Hello everyone, my name is Dimitris Arlis and today we're gonna do a short demo of the CodeAware ecosystem. CodeAware is a system that allows you to perform distributed monitoring of large code bases, usually shared by many developers through a version control system. So you can define some constructs which we call probes on specific pieces of code that are of interest to you, and then when your project is built on your integration server, you could get feedback back based on what exactly you specified in these probes. So we have a small project here, Java project. It's set up as a Maven project. And the next prerequisite we need is a local Jenkins installation with our project as well. It has also been configured as a Maven project, and let's take a brief look at the configuration. I basically want to show you how you add CodeAware here. So in the post build steps, we have a new CodeAware step which will only run if your build succeeds, because we have this option checked here. And we have also given some GitHub credentials so it can open up issues on our behalf when when a probe is triggered. So yeah, that's it for the configuration here. And going back to the project, I'm gonna specify some probes to show you how this works, and then I'll push my changes to the continuous integration server and see how CodeAware runs and which probes will be triggered and which will not. So we have a CodeAware plugin tab here in IntelliJ. Currently it's empty. As you can see, there are no probes. So I'm gonna go ahead and define a diff probe. So this probe will check for any changes in the code and will be triggered whenever there are some changes. There's nothing to configure in this probe. I'm gonna use an email notification as the actuator, and I'm gonna configure it to send an email to my personal email address. And I'm gonna give a name to this probe so we can see exactly which one it is. So I'm gonna save it, and as you can see, we have this small icon here next to the class, which basically reminds us that there is a probe called diff master instance on this class, and we can delete it from here if we want to. So let's add some more probes. This is another class, node instance. It has two methods, as you can see, a run and helper method. I'm gonna add two probes here, one on each method, so we can see that the diff probe can also operate, or any probe actually can operate on even in methods or in entire classes if we want to. So again, I'm gonna have an email notification to my own email account. I'm gonna name it diff node instance run, then save it, and I'm gonna add a new one on the helper method. So same idea, again, email notification. Okay, and this will be diff node instance helper. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go here in the helper method, remove this print statement and add, so this will be hello there. I'm gonna save it, and then in the master instance, let's just remove this statement. So what will happen here is that the diff probe will be triggered for this method, but not for this method because nothing has changed here. And it will also be triggered for this probe because we had a change in this class. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some more probes in different classes. So in this class, I'm gonna add a metrics probe, which is basically a check style probe, which will invoke check style to check for Java coding conventions that we used, or for cyclomatic complexity of our code and stuff like that. You can see from here exactly what we can configure in this probe. For now, I'm gonna just leave the default values. And this probe, let's make that a GitHub issue probe. Here we can define the assignee username. So the issue that will be opened will have me as the assignee. And let's make it to the entire class actually, and I'm gonna give it a name. Okay, and save it. And then I'm gonna add one last probe. So let me add the probe here and working instance, and this will be our last probe, a static analysis probe, which will use find bugs to give us back feedback about warnings in our code, or possibly problematic situations. So again, you can see here that we have different options. We can define the reporting level. I'm gonna leave it as medium. We can have different categories that we want to check for. I'm gonna leave them all there. And this will also be an email notification. And I'm gonna give again my personal email account. And this will be static. All right. So one last thing I want to show you is this folder here, .CodeAware. This is basically the folder where the diff probe files are stored, and where the server looks for them to figure out what probes exactly it needs to run. So we can see here that we have a probe for each one of the a file, sorry, for each one of the probes we defined. So I'm gonna randomly open one of them. We can see here that it's a simple JSON formatted file. So there are some attributes regarding the probe itself. So there is a probe type name. It's a code changes probe. It requires multiple code versions because you need the current and the previous version to check for any differences. The actuator list is just an email notification for my personal email account. And then we have some information about the host. So we can see here that it's a method. It has a return type of void, and the rest of stuff. You can see here modifiers, the qualified name, the label we defined, and a creation time, which is the time that we created this probe. So you can just go ahead and basically define these files on your own if you want, but it's a lot easier if you just use the plugin we have here. Before I can build the project, I have to actually push it. So let's see. We can see here that we have a new folder, the .CodeAware folder. So I'm gonna add that. Okay, and now we can see that we have these 5 new files which correspond to the 5 probes we defined, plus these 2 files that we modified to demonstrate how the diff probe works. So I'm gonna commit all of these. And now I'm gonna push. Great. So now here in Jenkins we can trigger a new build, and we can open it up and see what's going on. So first the project will be built, as we can see here. And now CodeAware starts. Let's leave it there running, and then when it's done, I'm gonna quickly go through what's happening here. Alright, so we can see here that it finished successfully. So let's go back and see what exactly happened. So we can see that first of all, the dispatcher loads all the probes, and then the host resolution slaves will receive the probes and figure out where exactly are the files for each probe. Then the next step is to send the probes to the signal generator, which will actually run them and figure out if a probe is triggered or not. So we can see here that the metrics probe, so the check style probe, basically has been triggered, and a new issue has been opened in GitHub. We'll see that right after. So moving on, find bugs was the second probe that was finished, and then the diff probe started being routed, and we can see here that for example, for the master instance probe, so the probe we defined on the entire class, we can see that it's aggregating changes made in host file. So it's basically aggregating the changes into a nice HTML file so we can see them, and we can see that the diff node instance run probe has no changes to report. So this is basically, if you remember, let me find it. So it's this probe here, which shouldn't be triggered because we didn't change anything inside this method. On the contrary, this method was changed. So this probe, if we find it here, yeah, so here it is. You can see that this probe found some changes, and at the end you can see that all of these three probes that were triggered, so the find bugs probe, the diff probe for the helper method, and the diff probe for the master instance class, all of them triggered an email message. So all of them will be included in one email message. So let's go ahead and check our GitHub here. So we can see this new issue that was just opened by checkstyle, and we can see exactly what's happening and what are the warnings that it found. So it's pretty nice. It has automatically assigned this issue to me with a CodeAware label. So now let's check my email. And we can see here this new message from CodeAware. This is the build that we just ran, number 35. So we can see here that all of the changes we had are bundled together. So we can see that find bugs found 4 bugs, diff node instance helper find some differences, and the same for master instance. So we have 3 different HTML files. Let's open up the first one, which is the static analysis one, and we can see that we can browse warnings by categories. We can see exactly where this warning happens. So it's pretty neat. And let's take a look at one of these diff probes. So we can see here with the red, it's the line we removed. With the green, it's the light we added. And also take into account that you only get one email for all of these probes, and you are not spammed with multiple emails for multiple probes, which is a nice feature. So I guess this was all for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.